Hey, and welcome to another episode of
Hang on, start again. He was grumbling at the same time as you said, hey.
Oh, damn it, Ryan.
Sorry.
Hey, get your negativity out of my cans.
Yeah, we're off to a good start.
Launch.
This is the AT Banter podcast, a balanced and entertaining look at assistive technology, accessibility, and its importance in people's lives. Join Rob Minot, Ryan Fleury, and Steve Barclay as they banter with people around the world about anything and everything regarding assistive technology and the disability community. Now, on with the show.
Hey, and welcome to yet another episode of AT Banter.
Banter.
I'm Rob Minot. Joining me today, Mr. Ryan Fleury.
Booga booga.
And Mr. Steve Barclay.
On the cowbell.
And boy, do we have a show for you today, fine internet. Well, with that setup, we're only bound to disappoint at this point, right?
You sexy internets.
We've got a show.
Yeah, no, we've gotta.
No, we gotta.
Yeah, no, we've gotta.
You threw me off, you bastard. With you and your grumbling. We do. We've got a good show, I think. I hope. Maybe.
We'll see.
No promises. You know what? I'm just going to dial that right back. We don't know what's going to happen to you for the next hour. We had to bear no responsibility.
Hour.
Well, sure.
All right.
Well, yeah, hopefully.
Ladies and gentlemen, please try to control your disappointment.
Hey, Steve.
What are you talking to me for?
Well, you know what? I think Ryan needs a rest.
He fell off the track.
But let me ask you, Steve, since you seem to be in the know these days, what are we doing today?
Well, we're talking to Google people.
Yeah, it's all Google all the time.
We are talking to Victor Tsaran, Senior Technical Program Manager for TalkBack on Android, Patrick Clary, Product Manager for Google Accessibility, who's going to be talking about a new service launching, and Kyndra LaCoco, Accessibility Community Manager, who can talk about customer support stuff. And then, as if that wasn't enough.
Oh, that is enough.
You think so?
That would be more than enough if I was a paying customer. So tell me what else I get on top of that, Steve.
Well, we are also going to talk to, I'm going to probably say this wrong, Nienke?
Actually, no, it's Rodrigo now.
It's Rodrigo. Oh,
no, Rodrigo's joining us, but I think Nienke's joining us as well.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Okay,
we got both Nienke and Rodrigo.
So.
All right, so we're up to 5 Google people.
That's my understanding.
And they're the Nienke and Rodrigo are going to be talking about their new Primer app.
No, apparently they're going to be talking to. I actually don't know. We don't know what they're actually going to be talking to us about because they're announcing something. Sorry, right. I stepped on that, Ryan.
No, I was just going to say they're supposed to be making an announcement on May 17th, Global Accessibility Awareness Day.
All right, so why don't we move right into the show, because I think it's going to be a long one today. So why don't we go ahead and bring them on?
All right, let's do it.
That's the peppiness that I like to see.
Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
This is Kyndra and Victor with Google.
Hi, Kyndra. Thanks for joining us. And Victor, welcome back.
Hello.
Thanks so much for having us today.
We're going to be 3-on-3 here.
Oh, wow. Okay. Uh-oh.
We could play basketball
or hockey with 2 penalties.
Yeah.
So I'm Kyndra LaCoco, the Accessibility Community Manager.
I'm Patrick Clary, Product Manager on the Central Accessibility team.
And I'm Victor Tsaran on the Android Accessibility Services team.
Well, so thanks so much for you guys for taking some time out to talk to us. I know it's probably been a pretty busy couple weeks for you guys with the sort of the lead up into the Google I/O show last week, and then the week before last, and then of course the show last week. So we appreciate you guys must be tired.
We're recovering.
Tired and excited at the same time because it's kind of both. You know, You're tired, but you're so excited because there's so much going on.
Yeah, last week was all pretty much like the I/O bonanza. So now, in addition to resting from that, we have to catch up on all the work we missed.
Yeah, I'll bet. Awesome. Well, let's just dive into some of the stuff that you guys talked about. In particular, you announced this new app for the visually impaired called Lookout. Could you tell us a little bit about what it is and how it works?
Yeah, this is Patrick. I'll go ahead and talk a little bit about that. So Lookout is a new Android app that was announced last week at I/O. It's coming in the US to Pixel devices later this summer. The goal of Lookout is to allow users who are blind or vision impaired to have a little bit more independence in situations where they typically may require help from others. So this includes like exploring a new space for the first time, or doing like daily tasks at home, for example, cooking. And what Lookout does is once you load it on your phone and you basically turn on the app, we encourage users to either wear their device or hold it out in front of them. And then whatever your camera sees, basically Lookout will speak this to the user. So the camera could see a person or text or an object. And for example, it would say if you're holding like a box of Cheerios in front of you, it'll say Cheerios at 12 o'clock. And so it gives like an idea of the position of the item as well.
And is all the recognition done on board the device?
That's right. So all of these models are on the device. And so you don't need an internet connection to use Lookout.
Was that a purposeful decision by you guys to do that? And was it harder to develop because of that?
Yeah, it was a very conscious choice. I mean, as we've been kind of developing this product and testing with users, we know they might use this product in a situation where they don't have access to the internet. Right. Or they don't want to, use up data. And so it was very conscious to do that. There are more constraints. So for example, we're targeting Pixel devices initially. These are higher end devices. They have more kind of processing capability on their device. There's kind of that constraint that is imposed by this strategy. You have to have these higher end devices that can accommodate that type of processing.
But eventually the technology will catch up anyways. I mean, people are updating their phones, every few years anyways. So, is that kind of the hope that people will age into the app?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we want to spread this not only to additional devices, but to other countries. And that's the hope, that devices will catch up and we'll find other strategies to kind of reach more users.
Now, sorry, and I might have missed this. So the initial rollout then will just be in the U.S.?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, we got the big question then. When in Canada?
When in Canada, yeah. So I can't say a specific date at this time, but I will say that we've had a lot of requests from other users, Canada, other places in the EU, as well as South America. So it's a big goal of ours to kind of expand that user base as soon as we can after initial launch.
Well, it definitely has some benefits. On the iPhone, they've got the Seeing AI app, which has been around for a little while now, but, only a couple of its channels are actually onboard processed. So, having yours do all the processing on board and getting it out to as many devices as quickly as possible is definitely going to be advantageous to you.
Yeah, and I think a couple other things that kind of are interesting about Lookout is that our goal is to really only read out items of importance. So if a room or a scene is cluttered, we might detect many different things in there, but then we actually score all of these items we detect, and we rank them based on kind of the user's personalization, their history, and either the mode they're in or the task we think they're performing. So our goal is to then only speak the items that are really relevant to that situation. And then in addition to that, we've developed, I mentioned it, we expect or we hope that users will either wear this device in a lanyard or in a shirt pocket. And we've developed a set of external controls. So you can either cover the camera on the outside of the device to pause recognition. You can actually knock on the device to resume recognition, or use a fingerprint sensor to change modes. And the goal of this is to really leave the user engaged in their activity. So if you're cooking, you can focus on cooking. You don't have to take out the device and interact with the screen. We really want to purposefully keep users engaged with those situations. So I think these are a couple things that help make Lookout unique.
Yeah, I thought it was really ingenious, the idea of having the different modes, because like you mentioned, there's like a home mode and there's a work mode, and so that the app can rank things by relevance, so that knowing that, say, a printer might be relevant in the work setting, but not so much if in the home setting, so that the items and the objects that are spoken, have relevance in that particular situation. So I thought, hats off to you guys. I thought that was really brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, that's certainly part of our strategy. That's why we want to have these modes to really help fine-tune our scoring and our recognition for these specific activities. We want it to be very, activity-based.
Yeah, and that's a challenge. On the outside looking in, you just think, okay, well, this is pretty straightforward. The camera sees what objects are around it, identifies it. But then, again, it's I think the challenge that most people don't think of is then you have to take those objects and figure out what is going to be relevant to the visually impaired user most. And that's got to have been a huge challenge when you guys were developing the app.
Yeah, and this is something where we hope it just actually improves over time as more and more users interact with Lookout. We'll refine our models and hopefully provide more and more relevant content and recognition as kind of time goes on.
Now, another one of the really interesting things that was announced was the sound amplifier. Can somebody speak to that?
Yeah, I think I can tell you. This is Victor. So Sound Amplifier is a new accessibility service that allows people to hear their surrounding better. So the idea being is that you will be wearing a pair of headphones that have a microphone, and then you turn on the app or the accessibility service, as it will be, and then on the screen, imagine you will have two sliders, and then you can adjust these two sliders to filter out the frequencies that are either difficult for you to hear or the frequencies that you want to hear better. That's in its simplest terms. There's a lot of, as you may have heard from the Google I/O presentation, there's a lot of smarts that went into the actual processing of the sound. We have lots of onboard effects, like compressors, limiters, post-EQ, EQ, and all sorts of geeky stuff that most people probably don't care about. But the ability of the sound amplifier to filter out the unwanted noise or to bring out the conversation that you want to hear better is really where I think its most power is really displayed. So this is where you see its biggest power. And so this should be able to run on, we haven't restricted any devices at this point, but certainly it will require Android P, because the new effect that we have discussed is actually part of the new Android P framework. So it will have to rely on this effect in order to be useful to users.
And I see the real power of this app. It not only does it have some really, really good potential for say the hard of hearing community, but also like I see it as a really, really handy a mainstream app as well. It would be really handy for students or anybody.
Also so exactly mainstream use, but also if you think about it, we didn't really touch on it because we want users to decide how they want to use this app in the best way possible for them. But I'm also seeing for blind people, this could be a very useful tool. As you may know, when you walk with a cane and you're surrounded with all these sounds around you and you want to hear your screen reader better, well, why not have a utility that will actually allow you to bring down the external noise and concentrate on the things that you want to hear? So there's really all kinds of applications, and we're really eager to see what users will actually do with this.
Wow, Ryan, now you'll totally be able to tune us out.
About time.
I was when I first heard of this app, I was actually quite happy to hear about it, because I've got a little bit of a little bit of hearing loss from scuba diving. I had an ear infection. I lost not a significant amount, but I've noticed that between that and, of course, getting older, I have a really difficult time hearing people over ambient noise, particularly in louder places like say a pub or something. And it'd be really cool to be able to tune back some of that background noise and hear the conversation better.
Yeah, that's cool. We can't wait for you to give it a shot and give it a try and let us know what you think. But we had lots of fun working on this, that's for sure.
Well, that leads me into a question, and I came loaded today, Victor, and so
he's bitter.
I'm gonna
He's shot out of a cannon.
Okay, I think I'm leaving it.
No, only you guys can answer this question. So you guys are announcing betas available to people in the U.S. first, and being in Canada and not on the latest flagship, I have an LG G6. It kind of leaves some of us out in the dark and not able to access the new accessibility apps and features in a fairly quickly manner. So I'm just wondering, is there any particular reason why you can't roll out some of these to other phones in other countries quicker?
Patrick, you want to answer this first from your point of view?
Yeah, I think my perspective on this is, we want to get something out as soon as we can, but we have to start somewhere.
Right.
And we start with the U.S., because we can get it out there fast first. But that doesn't mean that we don't intend or want to roll it out to these other countries as soon as possible. It's just that we started with a certain area in mind, and we see value in kind of releasing what we have as soon as we can, and then kind of growing from that point. But yeah, it's certainly something that weighs on my mind and on my roadmap for where we want to go with Lookout.
Yeah, and I would say this is not unique to accessibility services. Rolling out a release to a large audience of users, there's a lot of stuff that has to happen in the background, distribution channels, and so this, and Patrick also mentioned the user focus, same I could say, we do less of this in TalkBack, because we try to keep things as backward compatible as we can, but there comes a cut-off point where we need to rely, for example, on certain new APIs or certain new, components in the Android ecosystem to be able to deliver the experience we want users to have. So, I mentioned Sound Amplifier. It has a new API. We would love to be able to give it to users who are, still a Marshmallow or Lollipop or lower, version of Android, but unfortunately, many of these devices will not be able to simply cope with or being able to process this sort of complexity.
Right.
So I would say this is probably the primary reason.
Well, and that kind of leads me into another question. Sorry, I'm hijacking the show, Rob. But
Clearly, it's okay. You go ahead.
So like I was saying, I have an LG G6 that isn't even on Oreo yet. How is the process of Project Treble coming along?
Well, Project Travel, as you know, was announced last year, and I think you'll see in Oreo, I would say, was the most, probably far the quickest adoption rate, not in terms of numbers, but in terms of how quickly manufacturers have jumped on upgraded Oreo. I mean, if you see even Samsung, sorry, I shouldn't be saying even, but Samsung is one of the big partners. They have started rolling out all the way down to Galaxy S7, which
right.
I wouldn't even thought it was even possible. So, clearly time travel does make a huge difference for vendors. They're starting to appreciate the power of this new technology. And I think with P, you will see even more adoption. So, in a nutshell, I think the project is moving, it's a time travel. So I guess we'll just wait and see.
Okay, great.
But I think it's a fabulous new technology, and I hope that more and more partners will take advantage of it.
Yeah, thanks.
Now, one of the other new apps, too, was Select to Speak with OCR. Can somebody talk a little bit about that one?
Sure. Let me take this on. So Select to Speak is a accessibility service that's been designed to help people who have difficulty reading for various reasons, either because of dyslexia or some learning disability, or because they're just learning the language. They need some tool that helps them focus better on what they see on the screen. Mostly has to do with text. And so what we've done with this new version of Select to Speak is that we've put in the optical character recognition component so that you can, for example, open the camera, you can point it to, let's say, a poster or a street sign, and then you can select with your finger what you see in the viewfinder. And as you lift your finger, we will recognize the text on that object, and then we'll read it back to you. So it's one of those features that will make it easier for someone to concentrate on specific section or specific portion of the text they can see, because they may not be interested in the whole thing. They may just want to see maybe better, I don't know, the middle section of the poster. So then they can basically place their finger, draw a rectangle around the text, and then as they lift the finger, the text will be read to them. So again, it's just a continuation of the theme of making it easier for people to read. Incidentally, I tried something funny the other day. I was able to make it work with TalkBack, actually. It's kind of fun. So I was appointed to my coffee maker, and I drag my finger across the screen, and when I lift it up, it actually read the name of the coffee maker. I don't know if it was incidental, but
That's cool.
but the idea was just to help people read, and maybe even some people find some other interesting uses of it. But the primary audience are people with reading difficulties, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, does that happen a lot? I mean, you guys sort of develop an app or a feature or a service, and then you sort of release it into the wild, and then, are you guys ever surprised at what comes back in terms of how people are using it?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the sort of underlying methodologies Google that we do try to focus on certain audience, but of course we leave some space for surprise. And we have seen these surprises, and this is why, so going back to what Patrick was saying, it will be really interesting to see how people, play with Lookout, what they discover. And as I mentioned with Sound Amplifier, the same thing. We'll just wait and see, but I'm sure users will find hundreds of ways to use this thing. And on top of it, like with Sound Amplifier, again, we had a follow-up session at Google I/O after the main presentation. And, we had lots of developers coming up and saying, this is so cool, you guys actually have these effects as part of the open source, version of Android, because now I can actually build maybe my own version of Sound Amplifier. Maybe I can even do it better, something better, or maybe I'll take a different angle. Maybe I'll concentrate on, people who want to watch TV late at night, or whatever it is, right? So our goal is to give people tools and then build services that sort of showcase these tools, and then let developers go on and create their things to help different users.
Very cool. One other app that I wanted to briefly touch on, because I'm kind of excited about it, and you guys didn't really talk about it too much in the presentation, but can you give us a bit of an update on voice access and when that might be released?
Yeah, I can talk to that. So the update on voice access, if you're aware, it's currently in beta mode. So we released it a couple years ago in beta. Our beta pool of users, the users that we allow into that program, is currently full, so new users can't go download it. But at I/O this year, we announced that it's actually coming out of beta. So very soon, we expect sometime this summer it to be basically graduating from beta, so that users can basically freely go download it from the Play Store. I won't give specifics on it, but I'll say that it has a new UI. It has deeper integration with the Google Assistant. And the goal of voice access is to really provide, our vision is that users can use a tool like this to provide full control of an Android device through voice. So, for example, instead of scrolling up or down, opening on an app, clicking a button, you simply voice those commands. You say, scroll up, scroll down, click, app name, click button and things like that. And I've been using it, and it's very slick. It works very well, actually.
I think I'll do a shameless plug here as well, just to, for all things voice access updates or Google accessibility in general. The quickest way is to follow us on @Google Access on Twitter.
Okay.
And then we also have a central accessibility blog on google.com/accessibility. And we'll be posting an announcement on both channels as soon as it's ready.
Fantastic. One other thing, and something else that I want to talk about. It's not quite as sexy as a new app, but the way I see it, it's absolutely incredibly important. Talk to us a little bit about the changes that you guys have done to Framework in order to make accessibility more of a priority with developers.
Yes, I mean, with every release, there are changes to the framework, and we usually release new APIs. Like, for example, in Oreo, we released fingerprint sensor support, and things that facilitated, for example, continuous playback with select to speak, word highlighting, and things like that. These have all been facilitated by the new framework changes. And so in this release of P, we, was no exception. It's a few new APIs. They're, like I said, they're not super sexy until developers actually start using them. We have used some of these APIs in our new system UI, which is the sort of the overall Android interface. Like if you go to settings, for example, the very first API we talked about was navigation by headings. What you'll notice, a lot of the settings are now, the sections will be announced as headings. So then you can, if you use TalkBack, you can switch to heading navigation, and then you can quickly jump between those sections. And so what we're hoping is that developers will start using these APIs for their specific apps. And the good news is that we're also backporting this so that developers will actually be able to provide this heading navigation all the way down to Lollipop. Going many years back, so their app will still be able to expose these headings, and then accessibility services such as TalkBack or perhaps even Switch Access, whoever decides to use it, they can take advantage of these headings. The second API we introduced was the what we call pane titles. And pane titles, in sort of as a quick summary, as you can imagine, when you open a new app or you switch to a different screen, this usually is called an activity or a window, right? So window can have toolbars, it can have bottom bars and menus and all that stuff. But there's also things that are happening in between. So for example, your screen may be divided into two visually distinct parts, but to TalkBack or to an accessibility service, they look like part of the same window. So what pane titles allow you to do is it allows developers to declare these parts of the window as separate sections, and then TalkBack will provide appropriate feedback. So for example, you just crossed into a section called blah, blah, blah. We're not going to say it exactly that way, but you get the idea. And so This API specifically is focused on allowing developers to make these virtual parts of the screen or virtual sections of the screen into something that TalkBack can recognize. The third announcement to make was around, is screen reader focusable? It's probably the most difficult one to explain, but it actually has to do with the way, during I.O. we gave an example actually. When you have a playlist, for example, a table with singer, album, the name of the song, the price, if you were to parse this with TalkBack using linear navigation, you have to swipe between each and every item, which obviously is going to get super tiring and very taxing on your fingers. So what you can do with the is screen reader focusable, you can focus, you can group all the rows in one swipeable element, so that when you move your finger from one element to another, it's going to read out the whole row as opposed to each element individually. So those are probably the biggest ones as far as accessibility is concerned. There's always, all sorts of adjustments and improvements within the framework, but those are probably least interesting to users, I think. So I think these three APIs will have something the developers can take and actually make experience in their apps better. And those are the ones we talked about with Google I/O.
Right, and you've also built in some tools to help them, like sort of do a bit of an accessibility check when they're building their apps as well.
Right. So there are also tools for developers and/or testers. Like we have an app called Accessibility Scanner, which allows a tester or a developer, really anyone, you can download it from the Play Store. You can run it, and then when you see a screen you would like to test it for accessibility, you just press a button. It scans the screen and then it gives you results, some suggestions on how the app may be improved or what's wrong with this particular screen, some of the suggestions how to improve it. And then there's also obviously for people who are doing automated testing and things like that. So yeah, testing obviously is equally important.
Now, can you talk to us a little bit about the sort of the accessibility menu itself? I understand that, I guess in the new build, there's going to be some ability to simplify some of the gestures and stuff for people who might have a limited mobility. Could someone speak to that?
Yeah. Let me take this on again. So this is one of the accessibility services that my team worked on. And accessibility menu, basically think of it as a panel with shortcuts to most frequently performed tasks. So when you launch it through settings accessibility, the accessibility button will appear at the lower right corner of the screen. When you press it, the grid will pop up, and this grid will contain items such as take a screenshot, go to accessibility settings, talk to Google Assistant, change the volume, lock the screen, and so on and so forth. And the idea behind this was to let people who have difficulty, performing pressure on services or just pressing hardware buttons to quickly execute those important functions with just a single touch of a finger. Again, it will also work with TalkBack, so that if anybody wants to use both at the same time, this will be totally possible. But yeah, the primary goal here is to bring those important functions that you perform on an everyday basis on your phone just a little closer to people who may have difficulty using hardware controls or perform complex gestures.
Wow, that was a lot, huh?
That was a lot to take in. I mean, there was a lot to talk to them about. I mean, I kind of felt bad because we talked a lot about Android accessibility in particular. So I think we wore Victor out, but they just have a lot going on right now, and I would love it, Ryan, if you need to reach out to see if we can talk to somebody from the Microsoft accessibility team, because
already been working on it for the last 2 weeks. In their next event planning meeting, they're talking to Jenny. So
perfect.
We're probably getting Jenny on.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. We're in talks.
Oh, that'll be wonderful.
Yeah.
She's like the superstar rock star.
Yeah.
She's like the Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Of accessibility.
If you like Taylor Swift.
I guess. I don't know. Maybe there's a better analogy. I meant that in a good way, Jenny. I don't know. I could give a shit about Taylor Swift myself, but so you're like I don't know, who's big right now?
Ryan's a shining star.
You're the Ariana Grande of accessibility. No, that'll be great, because they're the other company that's really making some serious moves in the accessibility field. So, but whatever. This is Google's time. This is Google's moment.
And we're not done.
And we are not even done.
We got more Google coming up. We got people from Primer. So let's bring in Nienke and Rodrigo from Primer.
Hey, we hear something.
Hi everyone.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us. I'll give a quick introduction. I'm Nienke. Good to meet you. We've been emailing back and forth, but the most important person here in the room with me is Rodrigo. He's our global Primer team lead, and he'll be having the conversation with you. So I'm just here because I facilitated and because I'm curious, obviously. But he's our shining star today.
All right. Well, I'm our shining star. I'm Ryan.
Wait, whoa. We didn't vote on that.
I'm the shining star, but I will introduce you to my co-hosts.
Whoa. Okay, fine. Go ahead.
Well, at least we got co.
That's right.
Not sub-hosts.
So with me is Steve Barclay.
Hello there.
And we have Rob Minot, the man with the mostest.
Hello. I thought I want to be the shining star, though.
No, I'm the shining star.
Fine.
Well, I'm glad we got that sorted.
Well, we haven't yet.
Yeah, we'll fight after the show.
There's going to be a cage match after the show, I think.
I'm not the shining star either.
But why don't we step back first a little bit, and why don't you tell us a little bit about Primer?
So Primer is Google's free educational app with lessons on business and digital marketing for SMBs, small business, job seekers, startups, or anyone that's interested in learning about business and marketing. The lessons are designed to be like 5-minute interactive lessons that can develop the skills small business owners need to better their business quickly and simply by using their phone. You just need to download the app to have access to all those lessons.
Fantastic. And about how old is the app?
The app has been launched in 2016, and ever since we have been added content on a monthly basis.
So how much content is there available now?
Right now, we have more than 140 lessons, and this is very much aligned to Google's mission to make information universally accessible to and useful to everyone.
So now is it mainly aimed at, say, small businesses or entrepreneurs, or is there content there for, say, like a mid-sized to a large business?
Right now, it's mainly focused on business of any size. I think anyone can benefit from it, but we also like to think that job seekers and students, anyone can benefit from that, because we have lessons on many topics that can help any kind of business succeed. So even if you don't own a business, but you work for a business and you want to help your business be even more successful, you can find something there.
Hint, hint, guys.
Yeah, I've already got it.
Keener.
Well, I have to overtake your status as shining star, so I got to do something.
Bring it on.
I don't know.
Now, tell us about the team. Like, how big is the Primer team?
We have around 15 people working on the app. We're based in New York. We work almost like a startup. Like, we have content developer, we have like our product team improving the app, the navigation, and we have the marketing team that's always looking to how can we promote the app and make it accessible and visible to more people everywhere.
Now, do you guys find it challenging to sort of produce new content on a monthly basis, or is there just so much to running, say, a small business that, there's no end to the content that you guys can produce?
Yeah, as you mentioned, I think there's no end to the content. The content is not a problem. I think the main challenge is to partner with the right person to develop that content, because like we want to make the content as relevant as possible. So we look for who is the best person to talk about that content and develop the content in partnership with our team.
And now, is it a challenge to produce the content in like sort of these bite-sized chunks that are very easy to sort of digest? Because like as you mentioned, each of the lessons, they're only really supposed to take like 5-10 minutes to go through. Is that kind of a challenge to sort of put forth some of this content that might be fairly dense in such a little package?
Yeah, you're right. I think that's the main challenge, to put in what we say like Primer's voice. But the way we do it, like a lot of work from our content team. But if the content is too dense, we even can break like one theme into 1 or 2 lessons or 2 or 3 lessons, and we build a set around the same theme so that we can cover everything that needs to be known about it.
So is the app self-voicing, or does it work with TalkBack and VoiceOver on iOS?
Yeah, no, it worked on both iOS, Android, TalkBack, the readers. It's more accessible. We're always trying to make it more accessible.
Great.
What was your primary challenge for the accessibility side?
I think our primary challenge regarding that was partner with the right team. Here at Google, we have an internal team that focus on accessibility. So they guide us through this path and help us develop the content. But every time we start looking into this content and going deep, you realize like how much you can do and how easy it is, but you need someone to guide you from the start. And I think that's what, through this journey, there's so much that we have learned. That's what we want Primer to be like, to guide you through this path and help you start making your website or your app more accessible.
So are you guys are going to be sort of producing more content with an accessibility slant to it?
Yeah, right now we are launching a set of lessons, but in the future we are already thinking about new lessons, and let's see how those lessons are received so that it can even guide us through what path should we pursue, like regarding content development. But yes, we want to launch more content.
Yeah, and that's interesting because so it's sort of coinciding with a lot of the other, like the Google I/O announcements of all their changes to say Android framework that is making it easier for app developers to make their content more accessible. You guys are now sort of pitching to sort of say small businesses to sort of do the same with their business content, with their marketing content. So that's really smart.
As you go through the lessons, you're going to see like there are small tweaks and tips that we can give that can make your content, your products more visible to more people. And as we say, it's not only good for business, but I think it's good for everyone. Whenever you're building a more accessible website or app, in the end, you're making it better for everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, there's a real business case for accessibility that I think that a lot of businesses have yet to pick up on, but slowly there is a bit of a groundswell in, as businesses realize that there are demographics out there that if they can access their marketing content, they're going to become customers. And so, I think it's, obviously it's very important to sort of start making businesses aware of that business case.
Yeah, and I think like as you said, like that's a huge opportunity, I think, for everyone, but it's hard to know where to start. So I think that's where Primer can help. Like, where can I start building something more accessible? What do I have to do? Because I think a lot of business owners have very good intentions, but they don't know where to start, what to do. So right. I think we can help them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even the word accessibility to, I think, a lot of business owners is a bit of an enigmatic term. They don't even really understand what that is or what that consists of. So for example, can you give us an example of, say, some of the lessons that are sort of being developed in terms of accessibility?
Yeah, we have like some of the two lessons that we are launching. Like one is called like the basics of accessibility, and the other one is like design and test your business to improve accessibility. And both lessons provide practical tips to help businesses get started on improving their apps and websites accessibility.
Yeah, and again, I mean, I don't think that you're gonna find any end to that particular content either, because there's a lot to really building a fully accessible, company.
Yeah, exactly. And even going through this content development, we don't even realize how many things that have been developed that make our lives easier and what can help a lot of people with disabilities, like the closed caption and stuff like that. I think it's really, really amazing.
Now is a lot of the content geared towards say marketing, like in terms of their marketing materials, in terms of their social media accounts and their websites and the way they compose emails, et cetera, or does it also include some talk about accessible business practices in terms of sort of inclusive hiring and that type of thing?
Right now, we're focusing on making, especially their websites and app, more accessible by giving tips on, for instance, like increase color contrast or added alt text to the whole app, right, so that users can use screen readers. to have like a very good experience as a sighted user. So we're mainly giving them like initial tips so that they can start making their website or app more accessible.
How do you market Primer?
Right now, the way we are promoting the app, you mean?
Yes.
We have like our own channels, like so our own Google account in order to promote it. We have social media, and we even had like we promote through paid media as well.
And you come on the world's biggest podcast ever.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's the amount of content that's in Primer. I mean, it's pretty incredible, and considering it's a completely free app, it's a no-brainer for a lot of people who are either, like you said, work for a small to medium-sized business, or even they work in some sort of a marketing department. I mean, it's just chock full of really, really valuable content.
Yeah, and even like people that are looking for jobs can also benefit from it. Like, I'm from Brazil, so in Brazil right now unemployment's super high, and in Brazil the app we are helping a lot of people finding jobs. So it can help a lot of people learn, and that's why we keep adding content, because I think especially regarding digital marketing, there are a lot of new things coming up every now and then. So it's in order to keep update to that, it's really hard. So that's what we try with Primer. And as you said, it's completely free. And one good thing of Primer is that it works offline. So you can download the app and use it when you don't have like internet coverage. So when you're commuting to your work or going like on the subway, you don't have access to internet, you can be learning something, or waiting for your coffee to get delivered. Anywhere, anytime, you can be learning something new.
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, in the time that it takes, Starbucks to make your coffee, you can probably go through a lesson.
Exactly.
When you're coming up with the content around, particularly around online marketing, do you get insights from other people in the Google universe who kind of help you build that content? Are you able to draw off of people in other departments to help build this stuff?
Yeah, we have like internal research and user research that help us guide like what our users are trying to learn. Also, we have some insights from the Google search, what people are searching on, they're trying to learn. But definitely we rely a lot on Google experts to know what are the new trends, what are the things that people need to be learning, and that's the way we can help. I think in as you mentioned, delivering like simple jargon-free content in 5-minute lessons.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm just this is the first time really that I just finished downloading the app, and I'm sitting here looking at the content that's on here, and there's some terrific stuff. I'm gonna start going through a whole bunch of this.
Yeah, no, I spent an hour before the show doing the same thing too.
No, good. And send us feedback if you have it.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Now, so when are the new accessibility lessons due to be released, or have they already been released?
They're going to be released on May 17th on Global Accessibility Awareness Day. We chose that day to make to launch those lessons, and we're going to go in all of our media. We're going to be starting talking about that and how important it is, and how business can benefit for building more accessible websites and apps.
Oh, that's so cool. That, and that's you guys are initially just releasing the 2 lessons, and then there'll be more coming down.
Yes, we still haven't defined like the next lessons, but in the following months we'll be launching new lessons.
Great, guys. Is there anything else that we didn't touch on that you guys want to mention at all?
I think like 2 things, like if people want to download it, go to your Play Store or App Store, search for Google Primer, and you can download it for free and have fun with the app and learn and keep learning.
Is it relevant to you guys to mention that it's an app that is globally available in different languages as well?
Sure, absolutely.
Yep.
How many languages do you support?
We have it available in 6 languages. It's available in English, Spanish, Portuguese, Bahasa, Telugu, and Hindi. Not in French, unfortunately. but it's coming. I think the app we have been developing the app and launching new languages, unlocking new markets. So future, it will be coming.
That's an odd combination of languages that you've got there. Now I can understand with your connection to South America and the Spanish and Portuguese, but what you said, Hindi was in there?
Yeah, Hindi, mainly in India and Indonesia. There are our focus markets because when they are mobile first, so and a huge potential for and a huge need for people to learn like quality content. So you're targeting large market and early adopters. Yes, exactly, and mobile-free countries.
Cool.
Right. Well, guys, one other thing then. So if anybody does download the app and they have some feedback that they'd like to send, what's the best way to get in contact with the team?
Through the app, they can send their reviews through the app, and we answer all reviews. So
there is an email inside the app as well. I think it's hello@yourprimer.com, and that in practice will go straight to me.
Well, I have to say I was a little bit disappointed when I found out what the app actually was for, because in 2004 there was a movie released called Primer, which was an indie science fiction film about the accidental discovery of time travel. So I was thinking you guys had nailed time travel. You were delivering it as an app, and I was going to
such luck.
I was going to be able to go back and correct all those stupid things I did in high school.
No such luck. Guys, best of luck with the app. Thanks so much for taking some time out of your afternoon and talking with us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And if you want to develop modules on podcasting, Rob's available to you as well.
Cool. We know that there's some shining stars available inside your team.
There's only one shining star.
Shut up, Ryan. All right, guys. Thanks so much again, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you very much.
Have a good afternoon.
Thanks, best of luck.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh my gosh, that is a lot of Google.
Hey, Superstar Ryan, is your brain melted yet?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Overwhelmed with Google Talk.
Yes, that's a lot of Google.
That was a product too, I think, Google Talk.
Was it?
Google Talk?
I don't remember
It
that.
was a chat program of some sort.
Maybe it was before pre-Hangouts.
Mm-hmm.
Could be.
Yeah, wow, like a lot of accessibility stuff happening this year. I have to say, so it's it's so nice to see. Yeah, I don't even know where to start unpacking that, but and we're over time anyways, so you know what? We'll unpack it next week.
And then Ryan can go have a nap.
No, day's not over.
Hey, Ryan.
Rob.
Where can people find us?
They can find us, as usual, at atbanter.com.
They can also drop us an email, atbanterpodcast@gmail.com.
And they can find us on the Twitters and on the Facebookies.
And
the Instagrams.
That's right. Where can people find Canadian Assistive Technology, Steve?
Canadian Assistive Technologies, if you can keep from snickering long enough, can be found at www.canasstech.com. I put my ass back into assistive technology.
How do you spell that?
CANASSTECH.com.
And what about Mr. Rick Monkey Boy Chant?
Rick Monkey Boy Chant, repairer of all things AT, can be found at Chaos Technical Services. That is Chaos, spelled CHAOS, the way Chaos is spelled. And then Technical Services, the way Technical Services is spelled. .com.
The way .com is spelled.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. We will see everybody at the same time, same place next week.
Potentially. The weather's getting good. Some people might skip outside, but podcasts are portable. Reminder.
True
Download
enough.
it before you go out.
Like us on iTunes.
Like us on iTunes.
Or like us in general. Just like us.
Yeah, just like us. We're so nice.
Except for Ryan.
Well, he's surly sometimes. This podcast has been brought to you by Canadian Assistive Technology, providing low vision and blindness solutions across Canada. Find us online at www.canasstech.com. That's CANASSTECH.com. Or call us toll free at 1-844-795-8324. For all your assistive technology servicing needs, call Chaos Technical Services at 778-847-6840 or find them online at chaostechnicalservices.com. Music provided by bensound.com.
Whoa, look at that. Master of the one take.